So we're starting part 3. It keeps breaking up, so I don't know. It's the demons. I want to talk about Slender Man. I want to finish that. So I like how this is going, by the way. So for those of you that don't know, so I'm Seth. That's Derek. We're both from Andover, Massachusetts. I was a Buddhist monk for about 10 years and then traveled through India and Australia and learned healing and went to monasteries and did retreat and stuff. And I've returned home to find a way to integrate the things that I've learned with the community to see how I can help and support everybody. I don't know if you want to give like a short bio too, just for
I'm
those
just an average Joe
who don't know us.
I don't know how I know him. I'm kidding.
He gave me the beer. That's how it started.
Yep.
Beautiful friendship.
Yep. I feel very blessed. Just having like a beautiful life overall, and then almost blowing it, just being a dumbass myself, and kind of having an eye-opening experience from, almost giving it all up unintentionally, just by not fully appreciating this amazing gift to be alive. And that led me on an incredible growth journey of personal development and spirituality, and going back to school to study positive psychology, which is the science of human well-being, and attending all of Tony Robbins' events and volunteering at them all now, and giving back through that community, leading personal growth adventure retreats. And someone found out that I do that, Seth does retreats, connected us, and it started a good friendship because we're from the same hometown and just a couple of dudes drinking beer talking about life.
So Slender Man. This is actually really important for me. What I love about this also, I just want to say, is that I feel that we're both very grounded people, but I have a deep love for the paranormal and the kind of stuff that's like out there a little bit. And Derek's gone kind of a little bit, but Derek's gone a little bit deeper into the world, right, of like positive psychology and like emotional intelligence and things.
But I've experienced other dimensions and other capacities. And so that is my experience that I'm like, I believe. I guess for me, I just have a different, like, I might have different wording or different phrasing of things. But I know that this reality isn't quite what we think of it as being, as I thought it was growing up.
Which allows us to hold space for these conversations.
Because there's some crazy mysteries out there.
So Slenderman. So there's a website called Creepypasta. And Creepypasta ran a competition to see who could come up with the best new urban legends. So there was all of these entries and people making different stories about different creatures and monsters and things. And somebody came up with one called Slenderman. And people kept upticking it or whatever until it became, the highest voted one of
it's
like
not a piece of pasta.
Slenderman, right? So it's like
spaghetti.
It's not scary spaghetti. Of this man who wears like a suit, who comes out of like the forest and kind of abducts children and takes them into the children and takes the children, brings them into the forest, and does other stuff. And then as this person was other stuff, because as this person wrote about their Slender Man, people started adding to the urban legend already and saying, when I was a kid, like I saw, and like, oh, the neighbors, like, like one night I heard them scream and we were gone, and there was like, scratches on the wall, and it was Slender Man. So people started adding to the urban legend to make it more real. But then what started happening was that then there was people that actually started claiming that they're seeing Slender Man. That there's people that are having whatever, maybe they're like psychotic episodes or stuff, to the point that there was even a girl, if you remember, like last year, 2 years ago, who tried to kill her friend because apparently if you kill and make an offering and then you kill somebody and you go in the woods, like Slender Man will like invite you into his like home or something. So there's like an actual court case that was like televised that a girl killed her friend because like Slender Man had like told her to and she wanted to go. So it's become something that started actually playing in real time in people's psychology. What I thought was fascinating about this, first of all, I thought maybe this is another case of all these people collectively giving their thoughts and beliefs to this form, which then is allowing an actual entity to inhabit that form. And now we've created this thing called Slender Man. What was more interesting for me, though, is that somebody started researching this, and they found that in Germany, there is a being, also like an urban legend being, called the Din Man, which translation is the thin man, who is somebody that like was this long, tall guy that would come out of the woods and abduct children and bring them in, as if it was already something that was out there. And then it opened up this whole other crazy kind of thinking, which I love, which is like, where do ideas come from? What is creativity? And how do we know that there wasn't already, or there isn't already, this being in a non-physical dimension, the Slender Man, who had power more so back in the day when he was remembered, and then he saw an opening, and he somehow influenced this person to write his story, so that he again can have power and come back in and control people again. That these beings somehow weave themselves back into society, into our consciousness, into our awareness, to then again have control and to again do things. And of course, there's no way to prove any of this. It's all just kind of fun to talk about. But there was something also really just fascinating about that idea.
Well, as you're saying that, I can't help. Maybe it's the light warrior within.
Yeah.
That's like, well, what if we did this? So, have you heard of the other mystical character?
Ooh.
Yeah, the love virus.
The love virus. Tell me more.
And if you're infected with or by the love virus, then this little creature that can crawl in through your ear, it can go through your nose, it can go through your eye, your mouth, even permeate just through the pores of your skin. If you touch someone that also has the love virus. The love virus is contagious, and you adopt this unfortunate, tragic feeling of compassion and oneness and belief that we all deserve love and are perfect the way that we are. And this is very, very traumatic for people if they
Complete psychological breakdown.
by the love virus, because you now have no reason to hate one another. You can't even dislike the shitty parts about yourself, which is tough because we've become pretty reliant on that. I've heard of a few friends that have gotten this love virus, and it just devastated their life. Started being grateful and giving and compassionate and forgiving.
I think I've heard of this,
it was
actually.
Very disgusting.
Yeah, I think I've heard of this.
It's pretty awful to hang out with them, and I make sure not to touch them or come in contact with them, of course, because God forbid I get the virus. But it's a fascinating thing to witness, the beauty of love. Obviously, I don't want that, and you don't want that for sure. But it is a pretty thing of nightmares that would be interesting if we all collectively believed in the love virus and saw how that affected us all, if we gave that space for that demon to exist.
And I think I've heard that it comes down in rainbows. That by seeing a rainbow, that's how it starts to spread. And every time there's a rainbow, whoever sees it, they suddenly are infected with this love virus. This feeling of love and awe and wonder and togetherness, and then everyone they interact with starts to get it too.
It's horrible. Yeah, it's like it just devastating certain nations once it comes through.
I heard Chile has a bad case of it.
They've got
right
a
now,
bad case. Yeah,
Denmark
too.
Bhutan.
Bhutan is probably the most
Probably
critical
Bhutan,
condition.
yeah.
The U.S. thankfully we have a wall and a barrier to protect us from it. But shit, we better get that up quick.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to catch that virus.
So I think we should all start imagining the love virus is coming for us and is in us.
Yeah,
And this is beautiful. So now we're hearing what positive psychology, when it understands things correctly, can do. One of my teachers, Ajahn Brahm, he told a story, and he called it the anger-eating demon. And he said that one day the king and his retinue were out, and hunting. And when they came back to the castle, all the guards were running around and screaming, they're like, "King, stay out of the castle. There's a demon in your throne room." And the king's like, "Well, let me look. I'm here with my best soldiers. Let's go." And they went into the throne room, and there's this demon sitting on the throne. and it was kind of
What
green.
kind of throne?
It was the king's throne. Not his toilet, his throne. And it was kind of green and
I
hairy.
met
and
some
kinda
of those
gross.
demons before.
Yeah, I think demons hang around toilets quite often, especially at gas stations.
Especially after Chipotle. Continue.
And the king's watching, and then the knights and the guard, they're kind of attacking this demon and yelling, "Get out of here, demon!" And they're hitting with their swords and shooting arrows, and the arrows just kind of bouncing off, and the swords, and the demon just kind of like looking. And the more that people are kind of yelling at him and screaming, "Get out!" it's kind of growing bigger. And it's getting bigger, and it's kind of got its teeth, and it's slobbering, and it's like, and everyone's kind of fighting, and it's in an uproar.
Yeah.
And he's growing and growing. He's kind of growing up the wall, and his fingers, and he's getting more and more kind of like hideous and terrible. And people are fighting it.
I can't, it's too strong.
And the king is observing all of this, and as these stories go, he was a wise king. And he suddenly realized what was going on, and he said, "Guards, guards, guards. This is no way to treat our guests." And the guards all kind of stare at him, and he said, "Back away, guards." And then the king walked up into the throne room and saw this demon who's now like kind of like up against the ceiling because it's so big, it's like spread out over the wall. And he said, "Demon, I'm sorry that you received this kind of welcome here. I humbly invite you to stay. Thank you for coming to see us. Would you like some tea? Is there anything? Would you like some food? You're awfully big. You must be hungry." And the demon's kind of listening to this, and then he kind of shrinks down a little bit. And the king said, "No, please, demon, stay, please. Here, we'll come. We can massage your feet together. We'll give you all you want. We have the finest silks in the land. We'll build whatever you need. We'll give." And the demon, and he kind of gets a little bit smaller. And by this time, the guards and everyone understands what's going on. And they start running in with platters and food and cookies and saying, "Demon, you're beautiful. I love you. Stay. I don't know." And as they're just pouring their love and their thankfulness and their gratitude onto the demon, he's just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking until now he's even smaller than he was when he first arrived. And then eventually they come over, and then one last act, the king comes up to the demon and he says, "Please, demon, let me just bow at your feet and kiss your feet and thank you so much." And the demon it just disappears in a puff of smoke. And Ajahn Brahm said, that demon is an anger-eating demon. The more that we gave it anger, the more that we resisted it, the stronger, the bigger, the uglier, the more powerful it became. But by giving it love, by giving it acceptance, appreciation, letting it be there, thanking it for being a part of us, it started to shrink. And then he looked at everyone, Ajahn Brahm, and he said this, and he said, "How many of you have anger-eating demons within yourself?" And this was such a potent message. And I was reflecting on that and the monastery. And when I was younger, I had a really bad case of social anxiety disorder. I had trouble like talking in front of people and like being out and showing myself. And at the monastery, I was talking a lot in front of people and kind of overcoming it, but I still had the last little pieces of this like an anxiety in me. And I'd always be trying to break through, push through it, get through it, fight through it, be with the people, like, that feeling's not going to control me. And I looked at that feeling in me and I said to it, "Welcome, fear, welcome, thanks for coming. What is it that you want? Why are you here?" And what happened was that I suddenly felt that fear more acutely and clearly. And suddenly I understood it. And I saw that fear was trying to protect me from getting hurt. It was built when I was a child, where I was judged often, where I was bullied, where I was pushed away for not being a certain way. And that disorder, that program that started running in me, it actually came to protect me from getting hurt. And I would always, as I got older, I'd be fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. I felt lonely. I want to be connected to people. This isn't what I want. And it was just kind of pushing against this locked gate. It wouldn't go anywhere. But when I realized what it was, finally, I looked at it and I said, "God, like, you're trying to protect me. This thing in myself that I've been fighting is actually trying to protect me." And I put my hands like this and I said, "Thank you, thank you. Yeah, thank you, fear. Thank you, anxiety. Thank you for trying to protect me. You're trying to love me, and I've been fighting you." And I really embraced it. And I was like, "Oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you." And then eventually I said, "And now I want to say to you that I'm old enough to protect myself and I don't need you anymore." Yeah, that now I don't need you. I relieve you of your duty. I relieve the guard of its duty. I can now be there for myself. Thank you. And now I'm going to make new sets of choices for myself. And I really felt it melt away. And that was like this huge breakthrough, you know? And it's so important for each of us to look, what are the things, the parts of ourselves that we have resistance towards? What are the things that we're not allowing ourselves to feel, thinking that somehow it's bad or it's wrong, or like, because of this, I constantly feel ashamed or guilty or alone or in pain. Maybe we actually need to look at it and accept it and give it love and thanks and welcoming, and see, what is it that this thing actually wants to say to me? What is it? Why did it come into the place in the first place? What does it want? And then finally, you know, kind of how to lay it down afterwards. And this is like with grief, this is with depression, this is with anxieties, this is with so many different emotional plagues that we carry around, is that we're stupid. We're dumb. We're emotionally dumb. And we spend our time fighting things instead of learning how to understand things, like Derek was saying before. If you can give it love, you start to disarm it. There's no battle anymore. There's no problem. You know, then the anxiety also puts down its sword, because it now feels like, okay, like you're not trying to push me out of here, right? Because it's just a defense mechanism. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to say to that whole bit.
Well, first off, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I personally had a lot of downloads that I related to it, to the story, and I do feel that fear that's trying to protect us, right? It's like, as you said, like, you're like, I thank you, the anger eating demon, for showing up, because there's something that I need to learn. There's something that I need to surrender to, that I need to make peace with, that I'm resisting. And I believe we have this fairy tale blueprint story in our heads that we're not supposed to have any sort of suffering, that we're not supposed to be depressed, we're not supposed to be angry, we're not supposed to be frustrated, we're not supposed to be lonely, we're not supposed to be grieving, to be upset, right? And when we feel those things, those feelings that are by our societal standards uncomfortable, right? They're inherently painful, right? They're not enjoyable feelings at first. They're something that we are going to actively want to be like, whoa, what is this? No, I don't want to feel this, right? And so we can either suppress it and just say, no, I'm not gonna feel it. I'm gonna distract myself with the TV, with the drinking, with the cigarettes, with partying, you know, with whatever it might be that you're going to use as a tool just to not feel it at all, right? Or we can try to mask that feeling by saying, like, that's not how I feel. I feel great, and try to almost like not actually feel it. We're gonna block the feeling and then try to replace it with like a positive feeling, which I think is a big misconception about like the concept of positive psychology, that people think that when we feel sadness, right, someone would say, I'm not sad, I'm happy, right? Or like, I'm not angry, I'm grateful. And that's not what it is. Like, you do want to feel those uncomfortable feelings. You have to feel those feelings to be able to look at them, to be able to face them. And then from there, we're able to let them go. We're able to free ourselves from them. We're able to surrender to the feeling. And when I know personally, when those things come up for me, when as I am on my own path of improving myself and trying to enjoy life more and more every day, when I find myself at a crossroads of like, oh man, I'm kind of blindsided in this moment, like how this happened, where I feel like my light wants to project itself and say, oh no, like I refuse to feel sorry for myself. I refuse to let someone else's bullshit story negatively affect me. I refuse to feel not worthy, because those are things that don't align with who I am and my self-concept. Yet when I resist those things, when I say, no, I cannot feel those things because that's not me, I'm also denying myself from the gift to be human, to acknowledge that I am beautiful as I am, as an imperfect being. That I can say, I do have these fears, right? And those fears are a part of me. And although they're much less significant than they may have been in the past, they're still there because they have a purpose. There's still lessons for me to learn, for me to grow from. And I can, if I just try to distract myself from them, or if I try to replace them with something artificial rather than actually processing them, then I'm robbing myself of that opportunity to grow, to actually say, wow, can I find a way to send love to this feeling, to this person, to this hurt, to this emotion that's so uncomfortable, when it's seemingly impossible at first. It's like, oh no, I couldn't. I couldn't. No, not in this. I need to. This is no. When that's exactly what it is that I need to do, is I need to say, oh, I can't see it yet, and I don't know how this is going to serve me yet. And I don't think it can serve me, right, in that moment. Yet, if I maintain that faith, if I maintain the belief that everything in my life is happening for me, everything is a gift, even seemingly impossible in the moment, then I create the container, I create the space for that answer to come to me, even though it may not be in this moment, where I can actually step back and say, I don't know how, but I'm going to trust. I'm going to trust that the universe has my back. Because I am one, I am oneness with all, I am the universe, I am pure love. That is the strongest energy that connects us all, even to the darkness. The connection between darkness and light is love. And even though they need each other to exist, you need the love to connect one another. And from that surrendering to knowing that whatever that painful, uncomfortable thing is, ultimately will be beneficial for me, then that allows that space, as you're talking, Seth, to do the impossible, which is to send love to demons. To not only say, I accept you, but to say, I love you. To say, thank you. To say, I am blessed to have you in my life, and I will become better for this. And I'm amazed by this experience because it is such a blessing, which at first seems insane. And that's okay. And I think that that's a normal thing to feel. And when you feel that insanity about like, oh my God, it would be insane for me to be grateful for this.
Right.
Fuck. That's exactly what I need to do.
And this really resonates with a lot of Buddhist understanding too, man, because in Buddhism, it's all about your mind. And what you're doing is you're creating a mind of love, of gratitude, of happiness. And the only problem that's really ever there is just my mind is unhappy. And instead of making it about the object, about the situation, about the relationship, about the thing, instead of projecting, giving away your power to a situation and projecting it out and saying, I'm unhappy because of this stuff, by creating gratitude towards it, thankfulness towards it, you're generating a mind of love and thankfulness and appreciation and happiness. So you're not changing anything about the actual situation, but you're changing your mind into a mind of happiness. And when your mind is happy, then there's no problem anymore.
Yes.
So you're just like actually just like getting rid of the problem by just changing your mind.
You created the problem.
By filling your mind with the very thing you wanted, the very thing that the external situation wasn't giving you, you're just giving it to yourself and creating it.
But Seth, what about the things that are so atrocious that I can't just accept? What about massive injustice to humans that's creating extreme suffering by anyone's standard or blueprint? How do I look at that situation?
I would say, and I'll bring up a story from Ajahn Brahm also in this. I would say that situations of massive injustice are arising to show us the things that we need to work on. And above that, the places that we need to grow. So Ajahn Brahm, who was one of my teachers, this is his main thing, positive psychology, and he is a meditation master. He has mastered meditation, one-pointed focus where his mind drops in on itself, and he can just sit for days and weeks in bliss and just be gone. Very, very, very highly developed human being in the world of meditation, and meditation only works with positive psychology. You cannot meditate unless you're happy. So I like the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, you have to be a master of happiness. And his way of teaching is to constantly shift people's minds back to appreciation, gratitude, and thankfulness. Yeah. And this woman came up to him, and she told him the story how she was sexually abused and how she was raped when she was younger, and just painted this really horrible, horrible, painful picture. And Ajahn Brahm just listened, and he said, I don't, and he kind of like told us, he's like, I didn't know where I was going to go with this. But he's like, I think I just need to lead from the heart. And he listened, and after she finished talking, he looked at her and he said, you are so lucky. And it kind of just like short-circuited her mind. Tony Robbins talks about this often, like saying something that just totally derails them. Yeah. He's like, you're so lucky. And he also, as the words came out of his mouth, he was like, what am I saying? But the woman, it just kind of froze her, and she like listened in a little bit. And he's like, oh, okay. And he said, you're lucky because you're going to be able to heal this in yourself. And you're going to be able to grow and move forward from this. And because of that, you're going to be able to help other women. You're going to be able to support hundreds of other people in ways that I never can, because I've never had those experiences. He says, you're lucky because you can be a huge force of healing in this world in ways that I will never be able to experience. And it was just such a beautiful reframing of the situation. And the fact or the point is, things are the way that they are. If there's one thing we can really learn, is that so much of this life, so much of this world, most of it, like maybe even all of it, depending on who you talk to, is out of our control. Even the things you think you're controlling, maybe there's even no willpower involved in it. Maybe there's no such thing as willpower, right? We don't even know. But so much of this world are actually out of our control. So much of what's going on is out of our control. At any minute, a meteor could just hit the earth, finished. I could get sick. Things just happen. You can do your best, but things just happen in this world. I could get stabbed by Derek with the plastic pirate sword, and that could be it, So much of this world's out of our control. So what can we control? And like Gandhi said, one of my favorite quotes, Gandhi's like, I have 3 like arch nemesises in this world. He goes, one is the British people. He goes, they're, like raping India, and they're repressing our people, and they're keeping us enslaved, and we want them out. He said, but my second biggest enemy is the Indian people themselves. They are so hard to kind of get together and to get on one page. Like, they're just all over the place. Yeah. He's like, but really, my number one top enemy is a man named Mahatma S. Gandhi himself. With him, I have almost no control. And this was Gandhi's way of acknowledging that as much as I have all of these external challenges, I can't even control myself. I can't control what I'm thinking. I can't control what I'm feeling. I can try to like lay a new pattern work down and things, but things just pop up and things come up and situations happen. We are so out of control. We are flying through space on a rock. And we have no fucking idea what's going on, actually. None of us. On a really deep level, nobody knows what the hell's going on. Yeah. Nobody knows why we're here, what this is.
Never have.
What's going to happen. Seriously. But what we can do, right, is to reframe. To just reframe things. Just reframe things. And it doesn't have to be I think also in our culture, we're too caught up in the scientific method of truth, right, wrong, truth,
Labeling,
compartmentalizing and labeling. Why not instead look at things, what is helpful and what is harmful? So a situation can happen, and there's a million different ways to look at it, but some of those ways are helpful and some of those ways are harmful. If something happens to me and I feel victimized, I feel hurt and upset and disempowered and bitter, and I just swirl around in that, that's harmful. But that same situation could happen and I could be grateful, I can be open, I can be accepting, I can say I don't know, but I'm here, I'm going to keep going, I can use it for perseverance. That instead of being so bent on like what's the truth, why not shift that whole thing to like, how do I just respond to this world in a way to keep my happiness levels afloat? How can I just become a master of recontextualizing things? And that's not like a passive thing, because we are also living in this world. So it's not like, we're going to watch some like, foreign invaders take over and kill everyone. And we're like, well, at least, we're not going to become like placated and just do nothing.
No, because I think there's an interesting distinction about we don't have control about our outside circumstances, right? Like you said, the meteorite could happen. You could impale me with a plastic sword. Anything can happen that's out of our control based off of external realities. Yet simultaneously, we do have control of the meaning that we create, right? Even if we don't have control of what our mind initially thinks or the emotions that we feel at first, right? Those can just be triggered. They can be called from our own patterns, our own beliefs. And it's okay to feel those things. As our brain is made of three parts. It's our reptilian brain, which is the core, which we share with lizards and snakes and crocodiles that just feed, fight, fuck, right? There's the limbic brain, which we share with other mammals, with the monkeys, the primates that are able to have empathy for another being, to actually give selflessly to someone else, to even help another species in need. You've probably seen videos of like a monkey pulling out like a duck with a broken wing in the water, right? It didn't have to do that. Like, would a crocodile ever do that? No, because it doesn't have a limbic brain. It's something against the crocodile. It doesn't have the capacity to see another animal struggling, right? And to actually say, oh, I can do something about that, and I will feel good to help them. But what makes us human is our outer parts of the brain, which is our neo-mammalian brain. And our neo-mammalian brain gives us the gift of being able to imagine and see the future and to envision a more beautiful way of being, right? However, the unfortunate side of that is that we can also imagine ourselves of being perfect, of being this entity that doesn't have our limbic and our reptilian core brains, and thinking of ourselves as being pure neo-mammalian brain, which is what makes us human, right? And we're really this weird being that's not quite fully evolved in terms of like if we were to have a pure neo-mammalian brain, which is totally understanding, empathetic, it can see
it'd be
into
like
the future,
angels
caring, exactly, right? Yet we still have like a primal reptilian core at our brain that feels jealous and hurt when even someone that we know loves us looks at another attractive person. Even just a glance can be a stab at our heart to feel that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of love, right? And that is like, what? That it's our neo-mammalian brain will then beat ourselves up about that when that's just at our core, and that's a massive element of positive psychology, which is the permission to be human, and that concept of permission to be human is created by the reality that we're only partially like human, yet we're partially like, for lack of a better phrase, like animal, right? And Cheers. And
It's
that's
just
okay.
lime. It's just lime soda, kids. It's just lime soda.
That's beautiful, right? And when we acknowledge that it gives us like such a relief. It's such a it's the ability to breathe and to be okay. I'm hardwired like that, and I can evolve my software in my brain, which is the meaning that I create to a situation, even though my hardwired is triggered to say X equals this. Like, I see beautiful woman, that means potential like partner. I see guy walk by who's taller than me with bigger, stronger muscles. I think threat. He could kill me, right? And even though that's totally irrational in most cases in our modern day society, where it's just a woman, it's just a guy, it could be my good friend, like in either case, right? But our primal brain is still hardwired to be analyzing those things for our survival. When we can change our brain to alter the associations of seeing that trigger and see, oh, like strong muscle guy, ooh, maybe he can teach me how to be in better shape, right? Ally, friend, right? Like, so, so there, it doesn't have to be a negative association, right? So, and the beautiful thing is our brain has incredible neuroplasticity that we can literally reprogram the connections between our neurons to create those meanings. So even if in our past, our whole childhood, or because of our social conditioning, because of our parents' upbringing, our teachers, even our own just negative habits that we developed strictly on our own, have created these highways within our brain, the interweb of our neurons that have associated Sour Patch watermelons equals extreme pleasure, fried chicken equals like taste bud orgasm,
Extreme pleasure,
right?
Yeah.
And so and we focus all on the positive, which is that amazing few moments of taste, and totally neglect the reality of that situation, which is, oh, if you eat a whole bunch of either of these unhealthy things, I feel like a knot in my stomach. I feel bloated. I might have problems like going number 2 or something, whatever it might be, right? But we just kind of push that out of our mind because we want to focus only on the pleasure, because that's what the neuron connection is. X equals extreme pleasure. And if we consciously work on saying, I'm going to focus on the negative for this because I know it's not helping my body, it's not helping my longevity, because I want to live a longer life. I was using as a food as an example, but you can use the same technology for anything that we create associations to. We can say, oh, that equals pain. That equals not good for me. I'm gonna be more tired in 20 minutes because my body's going to be like, oh, I have to process this food, and I'm not going to be able to enjoy the next few hours afterwards because I'm not going to have as much energy. I'm probably not going to get as good enough sleep because my body's had to use extra energy to digest all this poison. And then I'm not going to be as productive the next day. I'm not going to be the man I want to be with the lady that I'm with, or my buddy that I want to hang out with, or at work, or with my family. And then so you stack all that negative emotion to make this association of that what maybe was an addiction, a positive pleasure before, as this demon that you're now like, oh crap, this is causing me extreme pain, just the thought of it. And that is an example of where we do have control, which is the associations, even though our reptilian brain might think of sugar or salt as like necessary for survival. So it says, ooh, yes, I want it. But we can use our neo-mammalian brain to our advantage to say, no, I acknowledge that initial instinct, and the cool part about it is you can literally, the software rewrites so strong that it overrides the hardware to the point where when you see it, you actually are maybe repulsed by it, right? You're repulsed by that negative habit, whether it's smoking that cigarette, right? Or it's binge watching that show, or it's hitting the snooze button instead of going to the gym, whatever it might be.
So I think The Bachelor season premiere is probably on soon.
We don't want to miss that.
We're not going to miss it.
Yeah, that'd be devastating.
And we wanted to thank all of you for watching the first episode. It's going to be a 3-parter because our camera kept stopping, so these are 3
It's
parts.
okay, we'll get it down.
For watching Beer with the Boys. And we hope to be back soon with the next exciting episode with a new topic. Feel free to let us know what you want us to riff on.
Yeah, hey.
And
Cheers, Seth. It's been a pleasure. Great
cheers, Derek.
chatting with you.
And we'll catch you guys
Cheers
later.
to the viewer.
Cheers.
Cheers.